What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. First installment of the YouTube Live heysean show. Giving this a good old try and see how we're doing it. Of course, who runs into technical difficulties? That would be me. We're a little crooked. We're just going to have to go with it, gang. I don't know if I can fix that. Sorry, everyone. I don't think I can fix the crookedness. I think we're going to be stuck with it. Anyway, welcome to the show. For those of you just now joining me, for those of you who catch us on the record, if you're hanging out with me in real time, say hello. There we go. People rolling in on the feed already. Vintage Panda. That is an interesting name. Interesting username. Today we're going to answer some questions and talk about what's on everyone's mind. I had a lot of suggestions, a lot of messages were sent to me in regards to what we should talk about. And I decided we should talk about the New York thing. Everybody know what's happening in New York? Anybody been under a rock for the past several days? I think it happened like 2 days ago. Apparently, New York has thrown down the gauntlet. Tim, thanks for hanging out with me during real time. We got a boatload of people coming in on the live feed, so we're going to let people roll in a little bit. The way the show is going to work is I'm going to answer a singular question at the beginning of the show, and then for the remainder of the show, it'll be more of a free-for-all, ask-me-anything, Q&A, heysean show. And tonight's first question has to do with my thoughts. Someone literally asked me, hey Sean, what are your thoughts on the new mandate by the state of New York requiring all nurses to possess their BSN within 10 years of licensure initiation? And that's a really long sentence. We're going to say that one more time so that everybody gets that. The state of New York, two-ish days ago, during the week of December 15th, 2017, has put down the mandate that every nurse who practices in the state of New York is going to be required to possess their BSN within a decade, within 10 years of their licensure initiation. Those are the words that they're using. And it took a little bit of digging for me to understand this a little bit. We got a couple more people coming in on the live feed. Thanks everybody for hanging out. The live feed on YouTube is quick and fast, so I will try my best to try and answer everyone's responses. The other bad thing about YouTube Live is that these responses on YouTube Live don't carry over into the comments. So if you got something that you want to say, that you want on record, make sure you follow up on the recording and put it in the comments if you so choose. State of New York, BSN mandatory within 10 years of getting your license. Now, I automatically thought to myself, well, hold on a minute. What if I'm a practicing RN in the state of New York and I've been an RN for 12 years, 15 years? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for any of the current nurses out there that possess only their RN? And like I said, it took a little bit of digging, but what it comes down to is if you have a current RN license, you are practicing in the state of New York, you are grandfathered in. You're not required to get your BSN within the first 10 years. You are correct, Tim. Tim has pointed out in the live feed that there is a grandfather clause. So the grandfather clause states that if you possess an RN license and you're practicing in the state of New York, this is important. If you're practicing in the state of New York and you have a current RN license, you are a current RN student, or I believe if you have acquired enrollment into an RN program, this mandate doesn't apply to you. If you are somehow in the profession in the state of New York currently when this mandate was put into law, I guess legislation, law, this does not apply to you. You are grandfathered in. You're good to go. It's not required of you to go back to school and get your BSN. Here are some of the highlights that make things interesting. If you are any RN outside of the state of New York and you want to come into the state of New York and practice as an RN, you have to have your BSN. Now, I don't know if there's a time frame, but if this is more specific, this impacts travel nurses, as someone had just pointed out in the live feed. Travel nurses are significantly impacted because say I'm a travel nurse, my original licensure is from a different state, Pennsylvania, and I decide I want to go travel and work in the state of New York, and I don't have my BSN. I'm pretty sure that you are required to get your BSN. I don't know, they haven't ironed out the wrinkles at this point. All I know is that over the next 18 months, people are going to have to make some changes. They have stated that the mandate was signed into legislation on the 19th of December 2017, and now it'll take 18 months for that mandate, for that, I guess we're going to call it a law. It's going to take 18 months for that to take effect. So people have 18 months to figure out where they fall in the spectrum of things. And I initially I had mixed feelings. So the answer to the question is, hey Sean, how do I feel about it? I feel it's about time. I feel this is not something new. I feel that we should not be shocked in any way. This has been coming around, this has been coming down the pipe since I became a nurse 15 years ago. 15 years ago, people were threatening that you were going to have your BSN in order to work, and it was going to be a national regulation. And 15 years later, they were still talking about it. They actually had come up with the BSN in 10 thing, which had to do with, and it was a little ditty that was created because those of us who are newer to the profession, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation did a study back in 2008, I think, and it was called the IOM something report on nursing. I'm horrible at remembering the name. But in 2010, they produced a study, and highlights from that study were obvious pieces of data that we all already know. The one being all nurses should practice to the full extent of their education, meaning all nurses should attain the highest level of education that they can, meaning BSN, MSN, DNP. So for the bedside nurse, they should possess a minimum of a BSN. And for the nurse practitioner, they should possess a minimum of a doctorate. So that eventually is going to affect me because I am a nurse practitioner and I possess a master's and not a doctorate. So it will affect me eventually. I don't know when that'll come down the pipe, but I have a feeling it's going to happen. Just a matter of time. Hopefully by that time I'm going to be quite grandfathered into that issue, so I should be okay. People are kind of up in arms that like this came out of nowhere, that, you know, why now and not later? Why now and not before? And I think it has everything to do, it took this long. There is evidence to support higher education, better patient. Anna, absolutely correct. You kind of beat me to the punch, girl. You beat me to the punch. It is proven, it is evidence-based fact that the higher the education of the nurse, the better the patient outcomes. So if you were to compare the care given by an RN and the care given by a BSN, outcomes are better with the nurse who provided care who had the BSN. Now, I don't care how you feel about that because that's fact. Guess what? I am a diploma nurse. I started with I had a diploma. I didn't even have an associate's. So guess what? I don't want to use the term, but I was at the bottom of the rung when it comes to the echelon of registered nurses. I had a diploma. I didn't even have an associate's. And now here I am with my master's practicing as an advanced practice nurse. So it can be done. Outcomes are improved. We all and here is one thing that really kind of, put me over the edge or really solidified my thought process. In the article from nurse.com, a couple of the tribe members had shared this article with me. Tim says that he was an LPN for 25 years, got his ADN, and he'll have his master's sometimes next year. Strong work, brother. Way to go. It can be done. The article from nurse.com talks about it reviews the mandate, and then it goes on to tease out the details as to why this is important. And here's the take-home message, and this is the part, this is the spoonful, this is the sour taste that we all get as a profession as a whole. Here's what really gets under our skin. And wait to Patrick, same to you. Patrick is also another ADN nurse who will be finishing his master's degree. Strong work, brother. Nursing is the only profession, one of the last professions that works in the healthcare system. Now, we could debate this. One of the last professions in the healthcare system that does not have and I had to write this one down, folks, so I'm going to refer to my notes. It is one of the only educational systems that's not standardized, which means that if you want to be a nurse, there's 7 different pathways you could take. And then once you become a nurse, there's 7 different pathways you can take to advance your career. It's I believe, one of the strengths of our profession, but also one of the crutches from our profession. You want to know why we don't have the respect, why we don't get what we deserve when it comes to the professional world? It's because we're lagging behind. We as a profession are lagging behind. You don't have to possess a bachelor's degree in order to work in this profession. Very good point there, Anna. Choose your own adventure in nursing. Absolutely correct. It's kind of a twist the plot. You could go back, you could get your diploma like me, or you can get your associate's degree. You can go back and get your bachelor's. You could go back and go from RN to BSN, or ADN to BSN, and then you could do RN to MSN or RN to DNP. And then if you want to do BSN to MSN to DNP, or you can do BSN to MSN to MSEND to a nurse practitioner. It's just a vicious and weakening cycle. Child of Most High, that is the name of their username. They're saying they're an LPN going back to school. So Patrick's one of the ADN nurses finishing his master's. We're friends on many social media channels. Patrick and I were having this very conversation in a private conversation on another social media channel, and we were having a healthy debate. And I was trying to come up with my rationalizations, because is this an opportune time for it to happen? Nope. I don't think this is an opportune time. But when is an opportune time for this to happen? I think New York has finally taken the first step. They're the first ones to step over the line. New York is finally saying, all right, we've been talking about it for over a decade now. We've actually been talking about it since the 1960s. I think it's time we finally say, boom, here's what you got to do. And New York is willing to admit that there are barriers to this mandate in the legislation verbiage that the brief that I read. You not only are required to get your BSN, within 10 years, but the state of New York has been charged, they have been required to create they're calling it a commission. They're having to create a commission that is going to look into the barriers for the current RN generation who need to get their BSN. So they're going to look into what is it that's preventing our current RNs to get their BSN. So I think, gang. I think that is a huge step, is that they're first of all giving you a requirement. They're giving you 18 months before the requirement actually goes into effect. And then even still, you're given 10 years. 10 years, people. A decade. You are given a decade to get your bachelor's. Once you get your RN, the moment that you get your RN, you get an entire decade. 10 years to get roughly 2 years of classes, which is roughly, I think the worst case scenario is maybe 45 credits, maybe 60. Doesn't matter. There are financial programs out there. You can take one class at a time over 10 years with little or no burden. Now, that's a long journey, but it is possible. So being upset that we're going to have to fork over money in order to advance our degree, I'm sorry. I think it's a worthwhile sacrifice. Now, the caveat being is that I had no problem taking out money in loans. I had no problem taking out grants. I had no problem bartering and stealing from my parents. So I think we all have to come to terms with the reality. Guess what? How does a bachelor's improve outcomes? I don't have the data in front of me, but I'd be happy to find it for you. And you don't need me to do it. You can look at the data that's out there. All you have to do is go into any search engine, type in BSN improved outcomes, and you're going to find loads of data. Not only just for bachelor's, but for a higher degree period. You know what? Actually, just go look up the IOM's report from 2010. The Institute of Medicine's report from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. I'll try and remember to put all this stuff in the details of the video. This live video will be posted later for you to view. So for those of you that are catching this on the record, thanks for hanging out. So you get 10 years. You get 10 years to get your bachelor's. Here's the other thing, and here's the part that kind of slaps you in the face, is that in the healthcare system, the RN who cares for patients, we're going to take a specific scenario in the inpatient world, and I'm only going to say inpatient because that's my forte. In the inpatient world, the RN, the nurse, let's go with nurse, the nurse possesses the least amount of education within the multidisciplinary team. And that's a very hard pill to swallow. Let me say that one more time. When talking about the multidisciplinary team that takes care of our patients in the inpatient acute care setting, the nurse usually has the lowest level of education. That one hurts because on the one hand, I know it's accurate. On the other hand, it kind of pisses me off, but it's the truth. Think about it for just a moment. Your PT and your OT individuals, they have at a minimum of a bachelor's, and in fact, PTs now are required to get their doctorate, their DPT. your pharmacists, they are required to get their, is it PhD or PharmD? They are required to have doctorate level education. Case management, minimum bachelor's degree, more than likely a master's degree. Do I even need to mention the amount of education that the physicians and the APPs have? Who am I missing that works hand in hand with the interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary team? The nutritionist. If I'm not mistaken, the nutritionist has to have a bachelor's. Respiratory therapy, healthy, wealthy, and stealthy. Respiratory therapy, if I'm not mistaken, they are. I could be wrong on this one. I don't want to overstep my bounds. But I think respiratory therapists also are required to have a bachelor's. So, and I have people from the live feed, the live audience that are confirming my statements here that we as a profession in the multidisciplinary team, we possess the least amount of education, yet we have the most amount of responsibility. That stings a bit, doesn't it? We have the least amount of education, but the most amount of responsibility. Because when the fit hits the shan and things go sour or they go sideways, who do they go to? The nurse. When there's a lack of communication between services and the physicians and the PT and the OT and the surgeons and the specialists, who do they go to? The nurse. When the family and the friends have questions or they have concerns and they need things deciphered into layman's terms, who do they go to? The nurse. So the nurse is the linchpin that holds the team together, yet we possess the least amount of education. Everyone else has a higher level of education. Does that make them better or worse than us? No. I'm just simply stating facts. So, to wrap up, since I love to talk, 20 minutes worth of this, is that I believe that the state of New York's mandate it's about time. Hashtag about time. This is something that should have happened a long time ago. So, about time. Is it going to be an easy transition? Absolutely not. Is it going to be a bumpy road? It sure enough is. So, I think that there's going to be a period of adjustment. There's going to be people that are going to be really upset. There's going to be people that are going to be proponents and supporters of it. I think it's going to be, it's something that's just going to take some time. But here's the last thing I'll say is that New York, in the state of New York, they have almost the percentage of employed nurses across the United States. New York has 10% of them, close to 10% of them. So if New York can do it, everybody else is too. So while you may not like it, unless it gets overturned like I think South Dakota did or North Dakota did back in 2003, unless this mandate gets overturned, your state's next. So you might want to start paying attention. Someone randomly asked me a question about my eyelid. If I think it's my, let me see if I remember right. It's my right eyelid, if I'm not mistaken. So my right eyelid, yes, I have a lazy eye. The short version, I got into an accident as a teenager, preteen. I think I was 12 years old. I was going very fast on a sled on a piece of ice, and I went face first into an iron gate fence. So I actually have a piece of bone that's floating right here. That's why I had to feel on both sides which one it was. This was this side. This side is where basically my face broke my fall. So whoever asked that question. My good friend Dr. Mike is in the house. Thanks for joining me, Mike. All right. So now that we've talked about New York and we've talked about the debacle, why don't we open up the floor here? Now I gotta remember how to do this YouTube. All right, here we go. I got it. All right. So someone asked me, the last question I remember here, besides the eyelid question, is that was it an easy decision for me to go for my NP? Was it an easy decision? Yes, it was an easy decision because it was something I had been wanting to do for a very long time. I was a nurse for about 3 or 4 years when I realized I wanted to be an NP. It took another 5 years before I actually did it. So was it an easy decision? The decision? Yes, that was easy. Was becoming an NP easy? No, not even close. I posted a question most recently on my YouTube channel about is NP school like RN school, and it's nothing like it. Other than like the overall shell of a structure, yeah, that's the only thing that NP school is like nursing school. Everything else is to the 100th magnitude. Yeah, NP school was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done. When I was in nursing school, Catherine's asking, when I was in nursing school, did you ever have moments where you felt like you couldn't do it? Like it was just too hard? Catherine, I had moments like that every freaking semester. Welcome to nursing. I would like you to find me a nursing student that doesn't have those feelings at some point during their nursing career. So I feel that it is actually a good thing. It's a good thing to question your motives, because then you get to decide if it's truly what you want. You know, the walls are put up for a reason. The walls are there for you to decide how important it is to you, because if it's not important to you, you're not going to go over the wall. You're not going to figure out how to navigate over it, through it, around it. If it's important enough to you, if you truly know what your why is for doing what you're doing, then all of those barriers, all of those walls, they're just obstacles. They're not walls. Dr. Mike's asking about FreshNP. For those of you that don't know about FreshNP, FreshNP.com. One more time, FreshNP.com. Brand new website that me and Katie Kleber, the Fresh RN, the former nurse iRoll, is a website that her and I have partnered to create, helping grow new NPs. So for anybody out there that's listening now or catches on the record, go check out FreshNP.com, where we're growing new NPs. Anything you want to know about becoming an NP, or the first few years about becoming an NP, you need to go check it out. And if you have anything that you'd like to ask, I actually have a place within that website that you can post questions, and I answer them as best I can. Tim says, with education assistance, no, it's ultimately worth it. Yes, Tim, it's absolutely worth it. Healthy, wealthy, and stealthy. Do you guys get skills, competencies like placing central lines, art lines? Absolutely. So let me rephrase that. Healthy, wealthy, and stealthy. Acute care nurse practitioners get those skills. We have to learn those competencies as an acute care nurse practitioner. Not all NPs will acquire that knowledge and skill. I am an acute care adult nurse practitioner. I work with the adults, not the babies, and I work in the acute care, critical care setting. So I don't care for the family and the PCP type of deal. So yes, I am trained, and I am competent in performing bedside procedures, including endotracheal intubations, central lines, arterial lines, chest tube insertions, and let's see, I can do paracentesis, thoracentesis, I can do lumbar punctures, you name it, I can do it. I actually do therapeutic bronchoscopies. So I hope that answers your question. I had another question back here. Sean, do you feel it is the bigger barrier to proper staffing, lack of quality staff at hospitals? I sometimes feel frustrated as a new RN because of staffing. Central lines is not a standard skill taught in school. So Patrick already hinted on that one. Jay White Duck is asking about proper staffing barriers. Yes, it is a barrier that has been in existence since I've been a nurse. Is it going to go away anytime soon? I don't know. Ooh, we're a little jumpy there. Hopefully the live feed's still going okay. No, I don't have any answers for you. The barrier to proper staffing is a multidisciplinary problem. It is not a simple solution of hiring more RNs. It's not a solution of just hiring more nurses. It has to do with the didactic of the floor, the geography of the unit, the overall skill level of the staffing unit per shift, per day, the actual unit itself, budgetary cuts, budgetary mandates. It's a very tough and sensitive subject and topic that I don't have an answer to. I wish I did. I tried to deal with it in the most proactive way possible, which is maintaining a positive outlook regardless of what's going on. For me personally, and in my world, we've been working short staff for the past 3.5 years, 3.5, almost 4 years. My department has been in existence for almost 5 years, and we've never been fully staffed. So this is not a nursing problem. This is a healthcare problem. It's not a nursing exclusive problem, because the respiratory therapy department, the physicians, the APPs, the specialty services, the palliative care services, the PT, the OT, they all are short-staffed. Now maybe it's my geography. Maybe it's a geography problem. I don't know. But I don't know how in today's challenging, sorry guys, hit that again. In today's challenging healthcare system, I don't have an easy answer. I really don't. I do know that empty complaints are not a productive way of solving the problem. And I'm going to leave it at that. So, a couple more questions rolling in here. I think Mars should floor staffing units design in their own practicality. Yeah, thanks, Mike. The live for some reason my phone is kind of jumping. Vintage Panda in February, starting my cert for health services assistance, which allows me to work in assistant nursing, completing senior years. One of my subjects. This is my senior year as a high school, and one of my subjects. Oh, okay, very good. I'm scrolling back here, gang. Is there any other questions that I'm not answering? Any suggestions on how a new... Sorry, the YouTube system is not the greatest. How a new grad can prepare for their first job on the floor. I'm reviewing cardiac meds, EKGs. Tess, thank you for giving your name, because your username's a little difficult to understand. Any suggestions for a new grad nurse for preparing for their first job? I can think of 3 or 4 things. The first thing you want to do is brush up on what are your weaknesses. Focus on what you hate or what you know you're bad at. And that can be in the form of EKG, physical assessment, fluid and electrolytes, anatomy and physiology. It could be something as simple as therapeutic communication. It could be going over specific skills. The reality is you're not going to be prepared no matter what, Tess. Your first job as an RN, it's a brutal wake-up call. What I like to call the slap in the face. And there's nothing you can do about it. The best RNs basically take the slap and keep moving forward. And while that is a horribly rough analogy, it's the truth. There's nothing you can do to prepare yourself for that first job. That first job is going to hurt like an SOB because there's so much that they don't teach you in nursing school. It's one of the reasons, the founding reason why I started doing what I do online, is to try and give you a heads up on all the things that they don't teach you in nursing school, because they can't. It's impossible. There's no way they're going to cram everything you need to know in 4 years or less. So, 4 years for your bachelor's, or if you get an ADN or a diploma, 2 years. There's no way they're going to prepare you appropriately. They basically are preparing you to take an exam. Take your NCLEX. That's all they're doing. Once you take the NCLEX, then the learning starts. That'd be the first thing. Focus on what you suck at. The second thing, what you could do to prepare before you start the job, I don't know, maybe check out my YouTube channel. Hint, hint. I have over 400 videos. Just take a couple hours every day and start doing autoplay. Just start watching videos. Start asking questions. Become a part of a community. Hint, hint, here, as well as other places that I hang out. Become a part of a community and start listening. Start asking questions. Ask more questions than you answer. And lastly, you're given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You got 2 of these and 1 of these for a reason. You need to listen twice as much as you talk. Take in everything. There is more than one way to skin a cat. Don't ever take your preceptor's word for gospel. Don't ever take your preceptor's word for, that is it, this is the only way to do it. Learn how to do it more than one way so that you can become an expert, and then you can pass on the knowledge to the next nurse. That's how we grow as a profession. That's how you grow as a professional. Next. Nicole's asking, in your opinion, when should a new grad start applying for jobs before they graduate, blah, blah, should I start applying now? Nicole, there is no such thing as applying too early. I started applying for my first new grad job almost 6 months before I graduated. The caveat being is that the only thing about too early is that you're just not quite there to know, to kind of have an idea what you want out of nursing. Maybe 3 months is a better suggestion, because at 3 months you're fairly sure of what you want to do. Fairly sure. 6 months, I had to think about it again. When I was 6 months away from graduating from my RN diploma program, yeah, I was still up in arms. I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be when I grew up. So, yeah, maybe 3 months. But you can start putting your feelers out there 6 months ahead of time. Start figuring out what you like, what you don't like. Get to the extremes of your decision-making tree. What is it you absolutely hate and don't want to do? And what is it you are convinced that you love to do? And then reverse engineer that. Start putting out your feelers, start talking to people online. You could absolutely start submitting resumes. Now, as a new grad, you ain't got a lot to show for it, so no harm, no foul. Send out a dozen resumes. A lot of these things you can do for free. Here's what I would really suggest, and this is just now coming to the front of my brain, just kind of dumping it right into my face. What you really need to do is start putting your resume out online to all these free websites, and then start interviewing. Do mock interviews. Interview with these people and see if they'll actually offer you a job. And then you can decide, do I really want that job or not? I don't really want that job. I don't know. Because you know what's easier? It's easier to decline a job than to pine and beg, borrow, and steal for a job. So interview for everything that you can think of. Interview and submit a resume for every job that you have the possibility of working, and then figure out after you're done which ones you want, which ones you don't like, which ones are making the cut. And by the time you graduate and working towards your NCLEX, you'll have a less than a handful of choices, or you'll already have a job. I'd say it's a pretty good place to be. Pat's saying go to LinkedIn. Absolutely go to LinkedIn. Smokey wants to know, does the wife get irritated that I do these videos? My beautiful, patient, and understanding wife doesn't do any of this stuff online. She is not she's not addicted to this stuff like I am. So this is nothing new to her. I've been doing this over a decade. The only thing that's new now is the frequency by which I do this. But caveat is that, yeah, I kind of make a little bit of money doing this, so she don't mind that. Speaking of which, Smokey, thanks for the reminder. For those of you that are still hanging out, not a lot of you hanging out in the live feed. If you're catching this on the record, I totally forgot. I got so buried into the subject matter. I have a Patreon page. Holy crap, I have a Patreon page. Let me say that again. I have a Patreon page. I had decided that 2018, I'm going to start asking for help. I'm going to start asking for donations because all this stuff that I do online costs money, and I'm looking for some support. Everything I give you is completely free. Everything is completely free. You have a endless amount of information that I have given away for free, and I love doing it, and I'm going to continue to do it. But what I would really love is if I could get some support from the tribe in some form of a donation. And I suck at the business aspect of all of this, so I'm wondering if y'all wouldn't mind sending me a donation. Something simple, something small, anything you can afford that could help offset some of the costs to what I do online. Your donations will not only curbside and offset some of my production costs, but it'll also allow me to do some equipment upgrades and afford some of these online fees that are becoming quite pricey. I want to continue bringing you value. I want to continue bringing you the best I can get for you. And with the help of some of your donations, I think we can accomplish that. Patreon is kind of like a Kickstarter. For those of you, I think everybody knows what Kickstarter is. Patreon is a community where I'm going to create private content. So if you become a patron, you're going to get access to the private Patreon feed, as well as there are different levels and different rewards depending on how much you donate. How you donate is completely up to you. I'm going to let you take a look at my Patreon creator page and see what you think. I'm hoping that you'll donate even a little bit of money because everything will help. Going back to the questions here, what's a personality trait that you think more nurses need to have? What is a personality? Kathy's asking, what personality trait should more nurses need to have? I think every nurse, patience. That's a cheesy answer, but it's the reality because we nurses, we suck. We suck at having patience for others. Not just our patients, the people we care for, but our colleagues, our coworkers, our loved ones, the physicians, the APPs, the respiratory therapist. Everybody is fighting some sort of battle, and nurses have a tendency to be very egocentric, that whatever's happening to them is the only thing that's happening. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Yeah, I would agree with the thick set of skin. Good one. Very good one. Healthy, wealthy, and stealthy. Kathy, if I had to give another trait, it would probably be, wow, I have so many running through my mind. You know, you got to be resilient. You got to be patient. You got to be strong. You have to be tough. You have to be understanding. You have to be kind. You got to have good communication skills. Now I'm going into skills versus personality traits. You have to be caring. You have to actually give a crap about what you do. Because if you're doing this for the money, if you're doing this for the great schedule, if you're doing this for geographic location, you're doing this for intellectual challenges, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. You have to care about the human condition. You really have to care about your fellow human being, because at our core, that's what we are. That's what we do. So Nicole says, what's my opinion on nurse residency programs? Worth it? Necessary? So, Nicole, I actually did a video on this, I don't know, maybe about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I don't know. But I did do a video on nurse residency programs. I knew nothing about them until someone asked me the question, and I actually did some research on it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm already forgetting about it. Excuse me. If I have to give an opinion on it, if you have the opportunity, do it. Hands down, do it. Because you will gain so much experience and you will get a feather in your cap. So there are different types of nurse residency programs, and the one that always comes to my mind are for current nursing students who are working towards graduation. They're in either their junior or their senior year, going in between junior and senior year, or they're in their senior year, maybe on winter break, and they looking to gain experience, gain knowledge, and quite honestly, to get their foot in a door somewhere. So hospital systems have residency programs where you apply. I think it's kind of like a paid internship. You get paid as a nurse's aide. While you get paid as a nurse's aide, you are going to get trained and educated in the skills that are required by an RN. So things like subcutaneous injections and medication administration and didactic learning, communication skills, placing a Foley, placing an NG, all those things you can learn in your residency program. You have to stay within the letter of the law, so I don't know the specifics on it. So the short answer is, if you can do it, do it. Someone asked me a question about collaboration here. Jay White Duck, would you ever consider doing collaboration with one of the other nursing channels? I would consider it all the time. It's unfortunately, I've tried to do it a couple times, but schedules never mesh appropriately. I'm good friends with Nurse Bass. I'm good friends with Ashley. I have a baseline communication rapport with Nurse Mendoza. I know quite a few of the nurse YouTubers. Of course, Katie Kleber and John Hawes from NRSNG. I'm actually very good friends with a handful of the nursing elite, and I just never can get the schedules to line up so that we could actually do a collaboration, because collaboration would be fun. And I don't even know how that would work out. So I would really like to do like a live broadcast on YouTube with the two of us. That would be awesome. But I don't think YouTube Live actually has that ability yet. Pretty sure it's coming down the pipeline. Thank you, Facebook. All right, coming up on almost an hour here, gang. Any last minute questions? Oh, wait, Faith has asked me a question. Do you have any thoughts on nurses signing contract as a new grad? Most residency programs require a contract. I mean, I don't feel any way about that. Maybe you have a more specific concern, Faith. A lot of nurses do sign-on bonuses and therefore have to go into a contract anyway. My hospital that I currently practice in, they have sign-on bonuses up to $10,000. Yeah, $10,000. But you have to sign on to be there for 2 years. So I don't see a drawback to it, unless it's going to affect your lifestyle in some way. Meaning, you sign a contract for 2 years, but you know that you're not going to be there in a year, or you're not going to be there in 3 years. So that's a lifestyle choice on that one. I'm going to answer one more question. We're going to wrap things up because, as always, big surprise, Sean likes to talk. Amy is asking, she's taking the NCLEX soon. Any quick tips for taking the NCLEX? If I had to give you one pearl, Amy, this is what I want you to do. Mental aerobics. Mental aerobics. You need to mimic the environment of the NCLEX. Studying for the NCLEX is actually pretty straightforward. You need to practice test-taking strategies. There's no way you're going to memorize and know everything you learned in nursing school, so just forget that. Just let that go. Let it go. You're not going to know it all. You are practicing to take an exam, so you need to learn test-taking strategies. You know, the STEM and the action words and the red flag words of never, always. You need to understand test-taking strategies. That's first and foremost. The second thing is mental aerobics. You need to mimic the environment in which you are going to take the exam. And that means everything. So you need to, go out and purchase the DVD, the CD, or go out and purchase, the online tests, the practice exams that you can get. Back in my day, you got CDs and DVDs. I think you can do it online now. Yeah, I'm old. You need to mimic the NCLEX. You get 4 hours to take the exam. And just practice taking 100 questions or 150 questions. You need to practice being able to take 150 questions straight. No breaks. And if you take a break, the way the time is discounted from your total time, you have to mimic what the NCLEX does. Because it's the mental exhaustion that gets you. It's not the questions themselves. The questions themselves, wow, they're going to trip you up. They sure are. It's the not knowing part. It's going from question to question to question to question, not knowing if you've answered any of them correctly. So you're knee deep into question 40, and you're still wondering if, did I even answer question 1 right? I mean, I have no idea. How am I doing? What am I doing? Mental aerobics. You have to make sure that you are fit enough. It's a funny analogy. You got to be fit enough to sit in front of a computer screen and go through the mind, the messing with your mind, so that you are the same, so that when you take question 1 and you answer question 100, you're the same person. Because by question 100, you're going to be like, oh my God, what is that word? Oh, the, T-H-E, the. Yeah, oh, the, and, wait, all right, I got to read that again. So, mental aerobics matter more than anything. The people that practice the mental aerobics are the ones who are successful. It's not because they've memorized the material. It's not because they're smarter than you. It's because they got through the stress of taking that long exam, which leads me, that's a whole other subject. So we're gonna cut it off there. Mental aerobics. I want to thank everyone who hung out with me during the live feed. Sorry for constantly kicking the stand on which the phone rests. Don't forget, check out my Patreon page. I'm going to have links for the New York mandate as well as my Patreon page for you to take a look at. I would greatly appreciate any kind of donations. I will definitely be pushing my Patreon page a little bit more now than ever. I'm hoping that you can support me in any way that you can. Thanks for always hanging out with me. Thanks for supporting me. Bring your questions for next week, next Friday, same time, same channel. And what do I always say? Check your own pulse first.